Zuri was a dreamer, a young woman full of ambition living in the small, quiet village of Luma. Her family, though hard-working farmers, had always struggled to make ends meet. But Zuri wasn't like everyone else. She had big ideas and a vision of transforming her village. She dreamed of creating businesses, improving lives, and building a future where everyone could thrive. With her energy and determination, she believed anything was possible if she worked hard enough. One day, while sharing her ideas with the village elders, Zuri met Kofi. He was a smooth talker, charming, and confident. He told her he was a successful investor, looking for young, innovative minds to support. Zuri, seeing an opportunity to finally make her dreams come true, eagerly listened to him. Kofi promised to fund her business ideas and help her turn her dreams into reality. He painted a picture of success, of prosperity, and of a future where her village would rise above poverty. He spoke with such confidence that Zuri believed him wholeheartedly. He assured her that he had the financial means to back her up, and all she needed to do was trust him. Kofi made her feel special, like she was destined for something bigger. Zuri, full of hope, trusted him and began to invest all her savings into the venture, borrowing money from family and friends to fund the startup. For Zuri, this was the moment that would change her life forever. She was about to embark on a journey that would turn her village into something extraordinary. But little did she know, Kofi's promises were nothing more than lies, and soon, everything she believed in would come crashing down. Zuri was filled with excitement and hope as she handed over all her savings to Kofi, believing that her dreams were finally coming true. She even borrowed money from her relatives, explaining that the business would make everyone rich. Kofi had promised her that everything would move quickly, and soon she would see her ideas take shape. For Zuri, it felt like the beginning of something big. She couldn't believe her luck in meeting someone like Kofi, someone who seemed so invested in her success. But as weeks turned into months, nothing happened. Zuri waited eagerly for updates, but Kofi's promises seemed to get lost in a sea of excuses. At first, it was just minor delays, technical issues here and there, he claimed. The paperwork isn't ready, he would say. We're still setting up the infrastructure. Zuri, trusting him completely, brushed it off as normal business hiccups. After all, she was new to this world of entrepreneurship. But as time passed and nothing changed, doubts started creeping into her mind. She would visit Kofi's so-called office, only to find it empty or under construction. Whenever she asked about the progress, he would offer vague answers or change the subject. "It's coming soon," he'd say with a smile. But Zuri could see the cracks in his story. Her mind raced. Was this all just a lie? Was Kofi just stringing her along, feeding her hopes with no intention of delivering? But each time she thought about confronting him, she pushed those doubts aside. She had already invested so much, both emotionally and financially, that she didn't want to believe it was all for nothing. Zuri began reaching out to other entrepreneurs in the village, hoping to learn from their experiences and gain some reassurance. To her shock, they spoke of similar scams that had happened in the past, stories of young dreamers like herself who had been deceived by smooth talkers like Kofi. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. Kofi wasn't the businessman he claimed to be. He was a fraud. Her heart sank. She felt betrayed, not just by Kofi, but by herself for trusting him so blindly. But Zuri wasn't ready to give up just yet. She couldn't let this man steal her dreams. She had worked too hard, sacrificed too much, to let him win. The scam had just begun to unfold, but she was determined to fight back. She just needed to figure out how. Zuri's heart raced as she made her way to Kofi's so-called headquarters, determined to finally get answers. She had been patient for so long, waiting for Kofi to make good on his promises. But today, something felt different. She could sense that the time had come for her to confront him once and for all. But when she arrived at the address he had given her, her excitement quickly turned to confusion. The building was nothing like what Kofi had described. There was no sign of the high-tech office, no bustling staff working on her project. The place was completely empty, with dusty windows and a locked door. Zuri knocked, her pulse quickening, but no one answered. She searched around the area, hoping for a clue, but there was nothing. Kofi was nowhere to be found. As Zuri stood there, bewildered and lost, a harsh truth began to sink in. Kofi's business address didn't even exist. The place he had told her about was nothing but a ghost. It was all a lie. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of the situation. The man she had trusted, the man who had promised to help her change her life, had vanished into thin air. taking everything she had worked for with him. Zuri returned to her village, broken and humiliated. She had lost more than just money. She had lost her dreams, her trust in others, and her sense of hope. Word spread quickly about what had happened, and instead of support, she was met with judgment and whispers. People who had once praised her for being ambitious now questioned her decisions. Her family, once so proud of her, now treated her with doubt. "How could you be so foolish?" her cousin said. "You were warned, but you didn't listen." The villagers began to distance themselves, some even mocking her for falling for the scam. Zuri felt the weight of their disappointment crushing her. She had believed in something, and now she felt completely exposed, like a failure in front of everyone. She couldn't escape the shame, the feeling that she had let everyone down, including herself. But despite the overwhelming sense of defeat, something deep within Zuri refused to let her stay broken. She had lost everything, yes, but she still had herself. And that tiny spark of resilience was enough to push her forward. She knew she couldn't let Kofi's betrayal define her forever. The road ahead would be hard, but she was determined to reclaim her life and prove that no scam, no matter how devastating, could stop her from rising again. Zuri's world felt like it was collapsing around her. Every step she took seemed to remind her of the betrayal she had suffered. She walked through her village, once filled with hope, now filled with judgmental glances and whispers. The people who had once admired her ambition now treated her like an outsider. Some villagers openly mocked her, shaking their heads and saying, "I told you not to trust him." Others, more sympathetic, offered hollow words of comfort, telling her, "It's not your fault." But it didn't help. Their sympathy felt like salt in an open wound. The weight of the rejection was unbearable. Zuri had invested everything into this dream, her money, her trust, and even her relationships with her family and friends. And now, all of it had been reduced to nothing. Her village, once a place of hope and support, felt foreign and cold. People whispered behind her back, and she could feel the pity in their eyes whenever she passed by. Her heart broke every time someone made a snide remark, or when she saw the disappointment in her mother's eyes. The emotional roller coaster was exhausting. One moment, Zuri felt like she was drowning in despair, wishing she could disappear and escape the constant humiliation. The next, a tiny spark of determination would flicker inside her. Could she really face another day in the village? Could she go on when it felt like everyone had turned their backs on her? Zuri considered leaving. She thought about packing her things and starting fresh somewhere far away. Maybe another town, where no one knew her story, where she could begin again without the weight of shame on her shoulders. But as the thought crossed her mind, she remembered something. She remembered why she started this journey in the first place. Not just for herself, but for her family and the people in her village. If she ran now, she would never be able to face them again. So, Zuri made a decision. She wasn't going to let this scam define her. She wasn't going to let Kofi's lies take away her future. She would stay and fight. With renewed determination, she set out to find a way to rebuild her life. But this time, she knew she had to be smarter. No more blind trust. No more relying on promises from others. She had to learn how to stand on her own 2 feet and find new ways to recover her losses. The road ahead was uncertain, and she didn't know how she would do it. But one thing was clear. Zuri was not going to give up. She would find a way to rise again, stronger than ever. And this time, she wouldn't just rebuild her life, she would rebuild it on her own terms. One day, while searching for a way to rebuild her life, Zuri crossed paths with an old woman named Mama Amara. She had heard whispers about Mama Amara in the village, the healer who knew the secrets of the land, a woman with knowledge passed down through generations. Zuri was skeptical at first, but desperate for anything that could help her move forward. She decided to visit her. Mama Amara's small, humble home was tucked away in the outskirts of the village, surrounded by thick trees and a garden full of plants Zuri had never seen before. The air smelled of herbs and earth, and there was an odd sense of peace in the place, as though time moved slower here. Mama Amara welcomed Zuri with a kind smile, her eyes sparkling with wisdom. She had seen many people come and go, but something about Zuri caught her attention. She saw a fire in the young woman, a potential that Zuri herself hadn't recognized. Over the next few weeks, Mama Amara took Zuri under her wing. She taught her the ancient art of herbal medicine, the power of roots, leaves, and flowers to heal the body and mind. Zuri learned how to make teas, salves, and tinctures, each remedy crafted with care and understanding. Mama Amara didn't just teach her about herbs. She taught Zuri about survival, about finding strength in the land and in herself. The land will provide for you, Mama Amara would say, but you must learn to listen to it. As Zuri spent more time with Mama Amara, she began to see her life differently. The lessons weren't just about herbs and healing. They were about resilience, self-reliance, and the importance of helping others. Zuri had spent so much time chasing big dreams and relying on others, but Mama Amara showed her that true power came from within. It wasn't about waiting for someone to hand you success. It was about using what you already had to make a difference. Slowly, Zuri realized that her true potential wasn't in running after quick fixes or big opportunities. It was in the simple things, in helping her community, in using her knowledge and skills to make life better for others. Her village, once a place of shame, now felt like a place of hope again. She began to see opportunities in every corner. People needed healing. They needed guidance. They needed someone who truly cared. Zuri knew that her path had changed. She wasn't going to be the woman who had been scammed, the woman who had lost everything. She was going to be the healer, the one who used her knowledge to build something real. With Mama Amara's teachings, Zuri began to feel a sense of purpose that she hadn't felt before. The turning point had come, and it wasn't just about survival. It was about thriving, helping others, and building a future where she could truly make a difference. Zuri decided to start small, taking the lessons she had learned from Mama Amara and applying them to her own life. With her newfound knowledge of herbal medicine, she began making simple remedies, teas to soothe aches, balms for wounds, and tinctures to boost energy. She also crafted handmade goods like baskets, soaps, and oils, all made with the natural resources around her village. At first, her business was small, just a few customers here and there, but Zuri didn't mind. She knew that everything worth building had to start somewhere. Each day she worked hard, perfecting her craft and learning more about the healing properties of plants. She set up a small stall in the village market, offering her products to anyone who would stop by. People were hesitant at first, unsure if they could trust her after the scandal with Kofi. But Zuri didn't let the past hold her back. She knew that building trust would take time, and she was ready to prove herself. Slowly, word began to spread about the young woman who sold powerful remedies and handcrafted goods that actually worked. Her reputation grew, and soon people who had once doubted her, people who had looked at her with pity, began to return, seeking her help. It wasn't just her products that made Zuri successful. It was the care and attention she gave to each person. She listened to their problems, whether they were dealing with physical pain or emotional hardship, and offered them remedies that truly made a difference. People started to see her not as the woman who had lost everything, but as someone who had rebuilt her life with hard work, humility, and a genuine desire to help. Her stall in the market became a symbol of hope, a place where people came not just for products, but for advice, healing, and community. As her business grew, so did her confidence. Zuri began to realize the power of building trust and relationships from the ground up. She had learned that success wasn't just about making money, it was about creating a space where people felt valued and cared for. She made sure to always reinvest in her community, offering free remedies to those who couldn't afford to pay, and sharing her knowledge with others who wanted to learn. In doing so, she not only regained the respect of her village, but also created a sense of unity that had been missing before. Zuri's journey wasn't easy, and there were days when she felt like giving up. But with each small step, she proved to herself and everyone else that no setback was permanent. She had turned a devastating betrayal into an opportunity to rebuild her life, one customer, one connection at a time. The respect and trust she had earned were worth more than any quick fix or scam could ever offer. And as her business continued to grow, Zuri knew that her true success was in the difference she was making in the lives of others. One day, as Zuri was setting up her stall in the market, she saw a familiar face in the distance. It was Kofi, the man who had scammed her, the man who had promised her the world and then disappeared with her savings. He looked different. His clothes were nicer, his posture more confident, but Zuri recognized him instantly. The moment their eyes met, Zuri felt a rush of anger, mixed with the bitterness of betrayal. Kofi had vanished without a trace, leaving her with nothing but shattered dreams. Now, here he was, standing in front of her, claiming to have turned over a new leaf. Kofi approached Zuri with a nervous smile, his eyes pleading for forgiveness. "Zuri," he said softly, "I know I wronged you, and I've been living with the guilt every day. I've changed, and I want to make things right." "I've come to ask for your forgiveness." Zuri stood there, staring at him in disbelief. Her mind raced with memories of the pain he had caused her, the sleepless nights, the humiliation, the loss of everything she had worked so hard for. It wasn't just the money he had stolen from her. It was the trust, the belief she had put in him. The hurt was still fresh, even though she had worked so hard to heal and move on. But Zuri was no longer the same woman she had been when Kofi first entered her life. She was stronger now, wiser, and more independent. The betrayal had forced her to grow, to become someone who relied on herself and the people who truly cared about her. She didn't need Kofi's apology to move forward. Still, she couldn't ignore the fact that he was back, and it wasn't just for closure. It was a chance for her to confront him, to show him that she had learned from her mistakes. Zuri took a deep breath, looking at Kofi with a calm but firm expression. She had learned the value of patience and control. "You think you can just walk back into my life, ask for forgiveness, and everything will be fine," she said. Her voice was steady, but her words were sharp. "You took my money, you took my trust, and you disappeared without a trace. You can't just come back and expect me to forget." Kofi stammered, trying to explain himself, but Zuri wasn't interested in his excuses anymore. Instead, she decided to turn the tables. She had learned from Mama Amara and the lessons of survival. She knew the power of using someone's own tactics against them. "I'm not the same person you scammed," she told him. "I've rebuilt my life, and I did it without you. I've learned to trust myself, not people who promise things they can't deliver." Zuri paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "But if you really want to make amends, you'll start by understanding the damage you caused, and not just asking for forgiveness. You'll prove it, not with words, but with actions." Kofi stood there, speechless, realizing that Zuri was no longer the vulnerable, trusting woman he once knew. She had become someone stronger, someone who wouldn't be easily manipulated again. Zuri wasn't asking for anything from him anymore. She had everything she needed within herself. Zuri knew she had been through the worst, but she also realized that her journey wasn't just about her own success. It was about using her experiences to help others who had suffered the same pain and betrayal. She thought about the women in her village, and beyond, who had been scammed, mistreated, and left behind by men like Kofi. Many of them had lost hope, feeling trapped in their circumstances with no way out. Zuri knew she could change that, and she was determined to make sure no woman had to face what she had gone through. With this vision in mind, Zuri started a new business, but this time, her focus was on empowering others. She created a platform where women who had been wronged, whether by scams, betrayal, or injustice, could come together. Zuri offered them something that she had never been given: a chance. She provided training programs where women could learn new skills and get the tools they needed to build their own businesses. She offered mentorship, guiding them through the struggles of starting fresh and teaching them to trust themselves again. And perhaps most importantly, she gave out small loans, offering financial support to those who couldn't get a loan from the bank, ensuring they had the resources to start their own ventures. Her program quickly grew, and before long, word spread throughout the region. Zuri had created a community of women who were no longer victims of their circumstances, but were taking control of their financial futures. The women began to thrive, turning their small businesses into successful enterprises. Zuri watched with pride as the women she helped transform their lives, knowing that each success story was a victory for all of them. She had given them the opportunity to reclaim their power, just as she had done for herself. Zuri became a formidable leader, a beacon of hope for anyone who had ever been left behind. She was no longer just a young woman who had been scammed by a charming man. She was a force to be reckoned with, a symbol of strength and resilience. People started calling her the Queen of Rebirth because she helped women rise from the ashes of their hardships, just like a phoenix. Her name was known far and wide, not for her past struggles, but for the future she was creating for so many others. Zuri's network of successful women grew, and soon she had built a community of thousands, all supporting one another and pushing each other towards success. As her influence spread, more and more women were inspired to take control of their lives. Zuri had turned her pain into power, and in doing so, she had not only reclaimed her own future, but had shaped a brighter future for all women in the region. As Zuri's business and influence grew, so did the envy of Kofi. Seeing her thrive while he was left behind, he couldn't handle it. Desperate to regain control over his fraudulent schemes, Kofi resorted to desperate measures, He spread lies about Zuri, trying to tarnish her reputation and undermine everything she had built. He told people that Zuri was no different from him, that she was just another opportunist, out to take advantage of the very women she claimed to help. But Kofi didn't realize one thing. Zuri had built more than just a business. She had built trust, and trust was something that couldn't be easily broken. Zuri had earned the loyalty of her followers through hard work, sincerity, and results. The women she had helped saw her not only as a mentor, but as a beacon of hope, someone who would transform their lives when no one else would. They knew Kofi's lies were nothing more than empty words, and they weren't going to let him ruin what they had built together. Zuri stood strong, refusing to let Kofi's manipulations shake her. She didn't need to engage in petty arguments or defend herself. She had something far more powerful, her community. She called upon the women she had helped, along with the community leaders who supported her. Together they organized a meeting where Zuri would expose Kofi for who he truly was. The people gathered, eager to hear the truth, knowing that Zuri had always been transparent and honest with them. With unwavering confidence, Zuri stepped forward, her voice strong and clear. "Kofi," she said, addressing him directly, "you've used your charm and lies to deceive people, to rob them of their dreams. You've left behind a trail of broken lives, including mine, but I'm here to tell you that your games are over. The truth is coming out today." Zuri turned to the crowd, her supporters standing by her side. She shared the story of how Kofi had tricked her, how he had promised her the world only to vanish, taking everything she had with him. She didn't need to exaggerate or make wild claims. The truth was powerful enough on its own. The women who had once been silenced by fear now spoke up too, sharing their own stories of being scammed or mistreated by Kofi, each one reinforcing Zuri's words. As the evidence piled up and the truth became undeniable, Kofi's face turned pale. His charm and lies couldn't save him now. The community rallied behind Zuri, ensuring that he was brought to justice for all the lives he had destroyed. The police, now involved, began to take action against Kofi, and the lies he had spun for so long unraveled before him. In the end, Zuri's strength and integrity had triumphed over Kofi's deceit. She had not only defended herself, but had protected the entire community from his manipulations. The women she had helped and the leaders who believed in her stood together, proving that no matter how powerful the enemy, the truth and unity would always prevail. Zuri's journey from victim to victor was nothing short of inspiring. After all the pain, betrayal, and hardship she had endured, she emerged not just as a survivor, but as a powerful force in her community. As an entrepreneur, she had turned the small business she started into a thriving enterprise, growing it far beyond what anyone could have imagined. But Zuri's vision was never limited to just her own success. She had seen how the hardships of the past could break people, especially women, and she was determined to make sure no one else had to face what she had gone through alone. Driven by her passion to help others, Zuri established a foundation dedicated to supporting young women with entrepreneurial dreams. Her foundation offered scholarships to those who couldn't afford education and provided the resources they needed to turn their ideas into real businesses. Zuri wanted to level the playing field for the next generation, ensuring that they had the opportunities she never did. She believed in the power of education, mentorship, and community, and she used her platform to provide them all. She became a beacon of hope for young women who had been told they couldn't succeed or that they weren't enough. Through her foundation, she showed them that they were more than capable of achieving their dreams. Zuri's story spread far and wide, inspiring people across the region and beyond. She was no longer just a woman who had been scammed. She had become a symbol of resilience, a leader who had turned her pain into power. Women who had once been silenced now looked to her for guidance and strength. She had reshaped her own destiny, and in doing so, had reshaped the future for countless others. As Zuri's influence grew, so did the impact of her work. She continued to expand her network of successful women, creating a community where they could share ideas, support one another, and collaborate. Zuri was no longer just a part of the village of Luma. She was a recognized figure, a philanthropist who was making a difference on a larger scale. Her success wasn't measured just by the businesses she built, but by the lives she touched and the opportunities she created for others. In the end, Zuri's legacy wasn't just about her rise from the ashes of betrayal. It was about her ability to inspire, uplift, and empower others. She was no longer just a victim of a scam, She had become the one making the rules, reshaping her own destiny and that of every young woman who dreamed of a better future. Zuri had shown the world that no matter how many times you fall, with determination and the right mindset, you can always rise again. And this time, you can change the world while you do it. Zuri's story is a powerful reminder that no matter how many times life knocks you down, you always have the strength to rise again. From being betrayed and losing everything, to becoming a symbol of hope, strength, and empowerment, Zuri proves that your past doesn't define your future. She's shown us that with courage, determination, and a heart full of hope, you can turn even the worst of situations into opportunities for growth and change. If Zuri's story touched your heart and inspired you to never give up, then let's keep spreading that inspiration. Share this video with those who need to hear it. Like it to show your support for stories of resilience. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales of strength and transformation. Thank you so much for watching and being a part of this incredible journey. Let's continue to empower each other. And remember, you have the power to shape your own destiny, just like Zuri did. Keep believing in yourself, and together, we can create a world of change, one story at a time.